What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In the last episode, I talked about the top shadow Pokemon that are worth powering up in Pokemon Go, and you absolutely smashed that like button. You seem to be very interested in the topic. A lot of people were leaving comments about their thoughts on it, but simultaneously though, we ended up getting a lot of core questions still about shadow Pokemon, such as, what if you've got a shadow Pokemon that has terrible IVs? How's that going to compare against a regular Pokemon with great IVs? Now, this is something that I have covered in the past, but I do think it is worth still covering now because honestly, people still have the exact same questions. So we're going to be answering a couple of core questions. We're going to be taking a look at shadow Pokemon versus regular Pokemon and discussing the differences between the different sets of IVs. And then secondarily, we're going to be updating this topic by talking about shadow Pokemon versus mega Pokemon and when it is going to make more sense to invest in one versus the other. But anyways, I hope you do enjoy this episode. If you do enjoy it and you want to stay up to date on all Pokemon Go news and content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's go ahead and attack the first question that people have in relation to shadow Pokemon and IVs. Now, in order to answer if IVs matter or not for shadow Pokemon, we're going to have to do two kind of comparisons. The first one is going to be a cross comparison, and that's going to be where we take a look at low IV shadow Pokemon and go up against high IV regular Pokemon of the same type. And we're going to be doing some unique combinations of 0%, 100%, and a couple in between so that you can really kind of see how the different IVs fall. And then of course the second part, to do IVs matter for shadow Pokemon, that's going to be a within group comparison where we're talking about different IV combinations and of course having a discussion around that. Simultaneously, we're going to be doing a raid to go ahead and answer these questions, but we're also going to include Mega Mewtwo Y, which is also a pure Psychic type Pokemon, which gives us a really good chance to cross compare and include Megas into the conversation. So let's go ahead and take a look at the raid simulation. We're going up against a Mega Blaziken, and as you can see with the results, you can see that the Mega Pokemon are of course leading the pack, followed by the Shadow Pokemon, and then in the third and final position, you've got these regular Pokemon here, and you're not seeing any type of mix and match. You're seeing a clear cut of these Mega Pokemon, and then of course these regular Pokemon are bringing up the rear for this, so there's not a lot of cross cutting between them like you think there would be. And of course, as far as the most clickbait comparison that we can take a look at, that's going to be a 0% IV shadow Pokemon versus a regular 100% IV Mewtwo. And as you can see, the 0% shadow Mewtwo is able to outperform the regular 100% IV Mewtwo, which is just insane right now. As far as costs are concerned, we can talk about candy cost and Stardust cost and all of that. We'll do that very briefly in a couple of moments, but as far as costs in the raids are concerned, the number of faints is going to be a big deal. So of course, you can see here that this Pokemon is going to faint more, and we're talking about 32 versus 27, best case scenario for the regular Mewtwo. But if you go ahead and go up in the IVs for the shadow Pokemon, you can see that shadow Mewtwo with 100% IVs actually ends up fainting less than a regular 100% IV. So you would assume that the cost would be that these Pokemon would faint more, but in particular cases, you can see that the Shadow not only outperforms it from like time to win, but it also faints less, which is just insane, right? And you may be saying to yourself, well, why the heck would I ever purify a Shadow Pokemon? Well, Niantic technically addressed that, or they think they addressed it. It just didn't have the intended effect that they thought it would. And that's going to be just in relation to the actual discount. So as far as discounts are concerned, what they thought was going to end up happening was people would say to themselves, you know what? I'm going to purify my Pokemon so that I can get a Stardust discount. And I'm showcasing level 10 here so that we can get a very easy cross comparison, by the way. So it would cost 1,000 Stardust for a regular Pokemon. You get a huge discount on Lucky, 50% down on that. Shadow goes up 20% compared to regular. And then Purified goes down to 10% compared to regular. A 10% discount is not necessarily enticing enough to get people to purify their shadow Pokemon. Niantic thought that people would care about discounts and, you know, doing all those things, but ultimately what ended up happening was we kind of decided what was more important, and that was going to be performance. Although it costs us 20% more in the candy and the Stardust, people are willing to pay it, and they're not necessarily purifying their shadow Pokemon as often as what Niantic thought was going to happen. But that ultimately comes down to the discount proposition that they're offering. If they end up changing it up, who knows what's going to end up happening. But yeah, they definitely need to update it if they want to entice people to purify their shadow Pokemon. And then of course, secondarily, we've got this whole conversation of the shadow Pokemon versus the Mega Pokemon. And as you can see here, Mega Pokemon clearly dominating versus the Shadow in this particular instance. That's important to remember because the way Mega Pokemon work is they can technically be valuable in two different ways. First, they can be just an extremely effective attacker. They can get out just a ton of damage by themselves, or secondary, they could focus on just being a good booster for everyone else within the raid. In this particular case, we've got this Mega Mewtwo that's going to be very attack heavy. So on a per Pokemon comparison basis, of course Mega Mewtwo is going to be able to outperform a single Shadow Mewtwo, but then secondarily, we could talk about other Pokemon, and we will, because we want to get outside of just Mewtwo. I'm just using Mewtwo as an example, but in some particular instances, we're going to see or talk about times where having a Mega Pokemon, it's going to matter as far as how it ends up supporting. But yes, this is versus a Mega Lucario. We finally end up seeing that the 100% IV is able to move ahead in the performance versus the 0% Shadow IV. And so this brings up the second part of the discussion of, do IVs matter for Shadow Pokemon? And the second answer to that is yes, as far as the comparisons within are concerned. In that particular case versus the Lucario, we end up seeing that 0% IV really hurt it. That means that it is a glass cannon, and Lucario has access to a move that is super effective against it, Shadow Ball. And because of that, and the Shadow Pokemon being such a glass cannon, that's where you end up seeing the biggest hit. And if we go ahead and dive in a little bit more into the details, I think that the number of feints really shows it. We've got 53 feints here for that 0% IV Shadow versus 35 for a kind of lower IVs for just the regular. So yeah, you're seeing that IVs are going to hurt it as far as its defense and as far as the stamina are concerned, to where it's just way too glassy. So you're definitely going to want to do that. And you're going to, of course, want to get the highest set of IVs that you possibly can for the Shadow Pokemon. But that's ultimately going to come down to your resources and how patient you're willing to be. If you've got a 10-10-10 Shadow IV Mewtwo, why not go ahead and power it up? But if you have limited resources, then maybe hold off, because you could end up getting a better one in the future. But ultimately, that's never guaranteed. So a lot of people advise, at least to me, that what you have now is the only guarantee that you have. What you could get in the future is never a guarantee. So you might as well have fun with it, and then maybe try to build up resources to get a secondary one. So of course, we already talked about the cost. We're going to go ahead and move on to the second conversation of Shadow Pokemon versus these Mega Pokemon. And we already addressed the first part of this situation, where we're talking about performance of an individual Pokemon versus the other as far as an attacker is concerned. But not all Megas are necessarily very good attackers. They instead are going to have more value from the support. So how do we answer that question? Well, when you talk about Shadow Pokemon versus Mega Pokemon, at least in my opinion, what's going to end up coming down to is how many people are in the raid with you. If there are a ton of other players in the raid that would get a boost from the Mega Pokemon, then of course the Mega Pokemon is going to be more valuable than just a single Shadow Pokemon. The problem with that kind of situation, though, is as far as raids are concerned now in Pokemon Go, they're not necessarily the hardest things in the world. So in my opinion, I think Mega Pokemon don't serve as much of a value currently in Pokemon Go, simply because raids are not as hard anymore. But if Niantic ends up updating the raids to where they make the raids a lot harder, that means that the value is going to go towards the Mega Pokemon. So basically what I'm trying to say is Mega Pokemon's value, of course, is within it of themselves how good they attack, but secondarily, how many people are they able to support? The more that they support, the more value that they provide to the raid, but you've got to make that decision. But at least in my opinion right now, I still think that shadow Pokemon are in general going to be a better investment than the Mega Pokemon are. And then of course, shadow Pokemon are going to be better investments compared to the regular Pokemon. But once the raids end up getting more difficult, I think that the value could end up swinging to the Mega side, which is honestly how it should be, because it costs you resources every time you want to Mega Evolve, and with that cost should come an increased performance. So that's going to be at least my opinion on this. I of course would love to know what you think about this in the comment section below. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Hopefully you got a lot of the common questions that you wanted to get answered in today's video. So of course I want to say, if you do enjoy this type of content and the style that I have, make sure to like and subscribe. But anyways, if you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out the new Patreon tier. I actually added on a new Discord server where we are talking about Pokemon Go. We're exchanging friend codes, we're coordinating for raids. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and also want to connect with other Pokemon Go players, make sure to check out that link in the description, and I will see you next time.